The envelope of your reality, the outer bubble of your realm of possibility, is limited by the lexicon and lineaments of the language you have in your inner library. Try to say that 3 times fast. That's basically super eloquent poetic speech for language is the envelope of your reality. And I did a blog post on this last week, but I want to do a video as well and expand on a couple points too, because I got some feedback on it that was quite interesting. So, language, and language is not just words, language can be symbols too. Symbols are actually the original language, and a lot of communication can occur through symbols as well. So, it's not just words. So, don't think of language just in terms of words, even though I'll explain it mostly in terms of words, so it's not limited to it. But words are primarily what we're using right now. That's how I'm communicating to you, as well as, the body language and stuff like that, the nonverbal communication, which is actually more dominant. But I'm talking about the words we're using. So words and language, it's like the raw material for thought. It's how we construct or mold our thoughts, And on top of that, it's the vehicle for which we convey our thoughts. So if you have a wider array of language at your disposal, you have a wider array of vehicles to transport your thoughts. So you can express your thoughts in more creative ways or more accurate ways if you have more of a variety of language at your disposal. If you have more tools, you'll better be able to express yourself. So that's one part of this. And also, words are signposts. So words aren't the actual thing. The word dog isn't the dog itself. It's a signpost to describe that animal. So that's another thing. Words aren't the reality, but they're the signposts that help us map out the reality. So it's like street signs. And that's another way. If you have more signposts or more accurate signposts, you have a more accurate description of reality, or you have the potential to more accurately describe reality. So that's an interesting way of looking at it. And this also your language, your lexicon, your vernacular. This is also what creates your sense of possibility, because you're only able to wrap your head around what you can think of or what you can describe. Yes, there are some things that happen that you can't describe it, but because you can't describe it, it's not really in your realm of possibility until you can describe it in some way, shape, or form. And describing it could be painting about it. It could be a drawing or a symbol too. It doesn't have to be, you have to describe it with words. So that's another aspect of that. And in my article, I also talked about alphabets and phonetics. So these are kind of fundamental aspects of language that can determine the possible range of a language. So languages with bigger alphabets will obviously have more potential for a wider array of possibility because you're working with more raw materials. And languages with a more expansive phonetic base, so phonetics is like the tones and the sounds you make. So if a language has a lot of tones and sounds and a big alphabet, the possible range is much bigger than if it were smaller. And of course, other things can be factors, but that's what's possible. So using those two things can determine what's possible of a language. And another interesting point is the paradox that comes with language being the envelope of your reality. So though you can expand your language, you expand your reality, but the paradox is that the ultimate existence, whether you want to call it God or source or Tao or anything like that, it's pure stillness, it's silence. And one famous quote is, "Be still and know that I am God." And another quote that's similar to this it's from the Tao Te Ching, I believe, is the Tao that can be described or the Tao that can be put into words is not the eternal Tao. So the ultimate of existence, the most fundamental thing, if you want to call it God, that's fine, whatever. That is indescribable. That is beyond words. So that's the paradox. You can expand your reality by expanding your lexicon and expanding your language capabilities, but that ultimate thing, it's beyond words. It's beyond language. So that's the paradox of it all. So after I put that article out last week, I came across two things that were interesting. One being a George Orwell quote that really validated this topic that I was exploring. And that quote's from 1984, and he says, "Don't you see that the whole aim of newspeak is to narrow the range of thought?" So that is a perfect description of what I'm getting at. This newspeak, which is what the language they're using on the news in 1984, it's designed to constrict people's reality. So language is the envelope of your reality. You can constrict people's sense of possibility by constricting the language they have at their disposal, because if you don't have the words for it, it is inherently out of your sense of possibility. And another point that really blew my mind was someone on Twitter brought up viewing this language being the envelope of your reality from the perspective of a programmer, of a computer programmer. So computer programmers do just this. They create realities. They create virtual realities through code, and code is a form of language. So through creating code, they create a reality, and they can determine the laws of that reality, the laws of a software, how a software works. It's all created through computer code. So if you merge that perspective with the simulation theory, which is the theory that this reality is actually a simulation, which the odds are it is, if you combine that with, and then also with the idea of the Matrix, the movie The Matrix, that we're living in some sort of matrix, another simulation theory, that is pretty mind-blowing. So maybe some higher aspect of ourselves is coding this simulated reality. Maybe something other than ourselves is coding this simulated reality to determine the bubble of this universe, maybe, and the bubble of our possibility within this universe. Who knows? But that's interesting. That computer programming perspective is interesting because it really validates the idea that language is the envelope of your reality. So here's some ways to expand your envelope, to expand your sense of possibility. So the first thing is to expand your vocabulary. Like Bun B said in the song Big Pimpin', "Go read a book, you illiterate son of a bitch, and step up your vocab." So yeah, expanding your vocabulary helps a lot with this. So do that by reading more and highlight words that you're not too familiar with when you're reading and go look them up. Or when you're writing, I use this strategy a lot. When I'm writing, I will pull up thesaurus.com and use words that are the most accurate in the sentence, or use words that flow the best in a sentence. So say if I want to have a slight alliteration in a sentence, if I want to use a lot of C's together, I'm going to use compassion instead of empathy, for example, if I have a string of words that start with C. So that's a way to really expand your vocabulary. Use thesaurus.com. And I already said this one, but this is another point, to read more. Reading more will obviously expand the tools you have available, both in learning more language, learning more vocabulary, and things like that. And ideas in some books will really stretch your mind. Fiction can stretch your mind, and nonfiction. Some concepts will really stretch your sense of possibility. And another one is to learn more languages. Like each language is almost like a different reality bubble, if you think about it that way, because it's completely different operating systems to create and describe a reality. So that's another one. And then another way is to be mindful of the words you're using, because words are spells. It's called spelling for a reason. So when you're using words, when you're speaking, both self-talk and external, you're essentially casting spells. Okay, so be mindful of the spells you're casting. Are you casting spells that are limiting you and not of service to you? Or are you casting spells that are helping you and those around you? So be mindful of the words you're using, both the internal words, the self-talk, and the external words you're using, because you can use that to expand your sense of possibility or limit it. And the last one is to engage in reality expanding experiences. So these are things like travel, seeing new cultures. If you're exposed to new cultures, it really just blows your perceptions wide open. And another thing is meditation. Meditation helps a lot with this because you're kind of going beyond the mind, and you're able to witness your mind and witness your thoughts and emotions, and you're able to go places that leave you awe-inspired. And which leads me to another one. Any situation, any experience that leaves you in awe, that leaves you in that sense of wonder, will help as well. It like blows your mind, and then you can fill that space. So it's like an expansion, and then you have the opportunity to fill that space of the expansion, if you get what I'm saying. And another one is plant medicine. So these are things like ayahuasca, iboga, even magic mushrooms used ceremonially and used in sacred settings. They could be quite perception blowing. And I've had direct experience, especially with ayahuasca, that really expanded my consciousness, expanded my sense of possibility, because you're presented these experiences that you can't quite put into words, but you also get like communication through symbols. So you're able to see that there's things beyond that was beyond your realm of possibility, and if you work on it afterwards, you can bridge that gap. Like I said, it's like blowing your sense of possibility open, and then you have the opportunity afterwards to fill that space if you want, or you can not do the work and then it closes back up to where it was. So like everything, you have to meet everything halfway. You have to do the work for yourself, because no one and nothing is going to do all of the work for you. So yeah, that's enough rambling about this. So language really is the envelope of your reality. So expand the language at your disposal, whether it be with words, symbols, or learning new languages, whatever. That's how you expand your sense of possibility, and you can expand your consciousness. But remember, the ultimate existence, the Tao, let's say, is pure silence, stillness that is beyond all of that. That is the beautiful paradox of it all. All right? Peace, peace, much love, and one love, baby.